Good day everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Cikgu Darrel and today we shall continue on Unit 3 Wildlife. For your information, this is going to be the third lesson which will be on page 35 on your student's book. At the end of this lesson, you should be able to talk about your country using superlative adjective. Hence, the framework for our lesson today would be: first, we are going to understand what superlative adjectives are, and this is followed by identifying the superlative adjective from previous lesson text that we have read. And last but not least, we are going to use the superlatives as a practice to describe Malaysia. Without further ado, let us start with the first activity of our lesson today, which is to get to know what superlative adjectives are. What is superlative adjectives? If we look at the sample picture here, there is a basketball player. What is the first adjective that goes through your mind when you look at this basketball player? It's tall. The adjective is tall. When we use tall as the adjective to describe the player, we use the positive adjective. However, if there is another basketball player and we can see that there is an additional height for this basketball player compared to the first basketball player, and therefore we use the adjective taller to describe this basketball player if we compare it to the first basketball player. Hence, this is called comparative adjective. However, if there is the third basketball player and we can see that he has the highest degree of height among the three players, hence the superlative adjective is being used, and the superlative adjective here is tallest. So, in other words, superlative in BM means paling. A superlative adjective is a word used to express the extreme degree of a quality. Bear in mind for this definition. However, there are various superlatives that we need to know so that it will be easier for you to do the exercise later on. There are superlatives such as EST, consonant EST, IEST, and also using the word most. And last but not least, we also have irregular superlative adjective. Irregular superlative adjective means the spelling of the adjective in superlative form is totally different than the positive form of it. But how do we know if a superlative uses IEST? It's very easy. When an adjective ends with a letter Y, for example, heavy, dirty, and pretty, then we need to change to IEST when it's in the superlative form. How about for a consonant with EST? For example, when a single syllable or single sound adjective ends with a vowel with consonant, for example, thin, fat, and hot, then we will need to put another additional consonant together with EST when we change it into the superlative form. How about if the superlative uses the word most? In general, when an adjective has three or more syllables or sounds such as exciting, expensive, comfortable, and difficult, then we need to use the word most in the superlative form. However, there are also some special cases for two syllables such as boring, handsome, famous, and careful. How do we know if a superlative is in irregular form? Well, these are only for some special case adjectives such as good, bad, or far. When they are in superlative form, the spelling is totally different compared to what it is in the positive form. And last but not least, what if the superlative uses EST? Well, it's very easy. As long as if the adjective doesn't apply to the first rule until the fourth rule that I mentioned just now, then we shall use EST for the adjective in superlative form. Now, let's move on to the next activity of our lesson, which is to spot the superlatives from the text that we have read from the previous lesson. Do you still remember the text about the blobfish? Today we are not going to read about the text, but we are going to skim and scan where the superlatives are. Let's go through with the first paragraph first. The blobfish isn't the most beautiful fish. As you can see here, the word most is being used. This is the third type of the superlative form on the planet, and it isn't the most common. Again, the use of superlative in the form of most. It's a dull color and you don't usually see it because it lives 1000 meters under the seas near Australia. But now, the blobfish is famous because people say that it's the ugliest animal. As you can see here, ugliest is derived from the word ugly. Ugly ends with the letter Y. Hence, in the superlative form, it uses ugliest. E-I-E-S-T. I-E-S-T. There are photos and articles about it in magazines and on the internet. This is really good for the blobfish and for other ugly animals, but why? Is there any more superlative form? No. Moving on to the next paragraph. Every year, thousands of species of animals become extinct. We often see information about the most interesting. Here it goes again, the superlative adjective using the word most. Colorful, such as whales, butterflies, or pandas. But some of the ugliest animals are also some of the rarest. As you can see here, it's in the EST form, and they also need our help. On list of the world's ugliest animals, the blobfish is often number 1, but there are other fantastic creatures on the list. For example, the monkey with the biggest nose. As you can see here, the superlative form biggest is using consonant with est. And the frog with the weirdest face, the weirdest, another superlative adjective using est. Are they really ugly? No, they're interesting and rare. The best idea is to protect all animals. The best is in the fourth form of superlative adjective, which is irregular. Now, based on the text that we have read just now, these are the superlatives that we identify from the text. Weird becomes the weirdest. Rare becomes the rarest. Ugly becomes the ugliest. Beautiful becomes the most beautiful. Common becomes the most common. Interesting becomes the most interesting. Big becomes the biggest. Good becomes the best. So in just one short text, we can identify 5 different types of superlatives, whereby we have IEST, EST, consonant ST, irregular, and also using most. Moving on to the next activity, where we are going to use the superlative as a practice for us to talk about Malaysia. Don't worry of not knowing much information about Malaysia, as I have provided some stimulus and hints for you. Let's look at the first example. If we look at the picture, this is a picture of Mount Kinabalu. And the keywords that I provided here is Mount Kinabalu, high, mountain, and Malaysia. The adjective identified here is high. So first and foremost, we will need to convert the positive adjective to superlative. The superlative for high is the highest. We just add in est. So what should be the correct sentence using the superlative form to describe Mount Kinabalu in Malaysia? This is the answer. Mount Kinabalu is the highest mountain in Malaysia. Next example. One Utama, big shopping mall, Malaysia. The adjective is big, and we change to superlative form and it becomes biggest. It's a consonant with est, and therefore the answer here should be One Utama is the biggest shopping mall in Malaysia. Third example. Sitiawan, dry, place, Malaysia. The adjective identified is dry, and we change to superlative form, it becomes the driest. Remove the Y and add on IEST, and therefore the answer should be Sitiawan is the driest place in Malaysia. Nasi lemak, delicious, breakfast, Malaysia. The adjective here is delicious, and if you still remember the characteristic of the superlative, the word delicious has 3 syllables or sounds. Hence, when it is changed to superlative form, it becomes the most delicious. Therefore, the answer is nasi lemak is the most delicious breakfast in Malaysia. Last example, Melaka, good tourism spot, Malaysia. Good is an irregular adjective when it is changed to superlative form. Hence, when we change to superlative, it becomes the best. So the answer would be Melaka is the best tourism spot in Malaysia. So that's the end of our lesson today. This is a Google form that I prepared for you. Feel free to just scan at the QR code right in front of the screen, or you can go to the video description below to click on the link and do the Google form exercise straight away. And if you're a teacher and you would like to make a copy of this Google form exercise, feel free to just scan at the QR code, or you can proceed to the video description below and click on the alternative link that I have provided there as well. As usual, don't forget to visit my Facebook page Cikgu Darrel, as well as subscribe my YouTube channel. There is a bell right beside the subscribe button, and don't forget to press the bell so that you will always keep notified whenever I update my playlist. With that, I would like to thank you for watching, and I shall see you at the next video. Bye!